Bill Gates views you as incomplete tech. He views you the same way he viewed the computer world in a brilliant, brilliant take. He, and I don't know to what degree Ballmer was involved in this. No, Ballmer came later. Paul Allen. Paul Allen's never really talked about, and before he died, he never really talked about, did he see it the same way Bill did? Legend is that they did. Myth is that they did. What's the reality? I don't know. But I know that they saw a coming wave of cheap computers. They saw hobbyists that were building computers that could one day begin to rival what IBM built. IBM didn't see that. IBM thought they had invented the computer. They would always own the market for the computer, that these little hobbyists were little jokes, like little Radio Shack things. Bill Gates and Ballmer with help, Bill Gates and Paul Allen with help, saw the coming revolution based upon Moore's Law, processing power doubling every 18 months, these processors getting smaller, therefore cheaper, easier to access. Gates and Allen were part of the computer hobbyist world. They could see the trajectory where these devices were going. The change in view was this. Rather than make the computers, Bill Gates and Paul Allen said, let's make the software. Rather than sell the software directly to consumers, which they started doing, they said, let's license it to the makers of computers because that's going to be easier. We'll make the software once, sell it tens of thousands and millions and hundreds of millions and billions of times if we license it. So when they went into IBM on a fateful day and Bill Gates had negotiated the sale of DOS to him and Microsoft, I think it was $80,000 from a computer repair store in Kent, Washington. The guy who ran that store, had invented an operating system. Bill and Paul had responded to a request from IBM for a meeting. IBM called and said, hey, do you make operating systems? And they said, they lied. Yeah, we do. So they went and licensed one. And they took the disk operating system, DOS, Windows DOS, to IBM. They did a presentation on how it works. IBM made them an offer. Bill and his partners, I think it was Ballmer at this point, said, we want to go differently. We don't want to sell you the operating system. We want to license it to you. It'll cost you a whole lot less money. Now, those two guys, legend goes, when they showed up to the meeting, they actually had to buy ties. They learned that you don't go into the IBM building. You can't get in without a tie. So they actually had to buy ties. So when they went upstairs, it's in boughten ties. That is a word, by the way, boughten. When they left, IBM had agreed to license rather than purchase the operating system. When Bill and Steve got down to their car, they laughed hysterically. They couldn't believe what they'd just done to IBM. Upstairs, IBM executives watched those two clowns walk to their car, and they laughed hysterically. Look at what those two idiots just did. This is from a book called Accidental Empires, by the way. Describes this really, really well. Bill Gates saw a whole world of clone computers that would need operating systems. Bill Gates sees your babies and you the same way. Incomplete tech that needs operating systems and apps. He wants to be that person who provides that or installs it. See, he views things differently than we do. We view human life as something created by God in God's image, that God loves human life. We do this to the degree that we even make decisions about companies we work with. We work with Allen Soaps at allensoaps.com/Todd. This is a soap that's made in America. It's all natural. It is absolutely gentle because Allen, he is real. He's the chief soap officer there. His skin cannot stand anything harsh. Allen has some very unique health conditions. At the age of 13, he's been through about 18 operations. The last operation was fusing some vertebrae in his neck so that he could move more naturally. He's also very, very high up on the autism scale, profoundly impacted by autism. Allen is effectively nonverbal, but not stupid, not at all. He's a very brilliant kid. He's the chief soap officer for real. He creates many of the fragrances, and he has a tablet he can use to communicate with his parents. John runs the company on his behalf. John's the actual business mind behind Allen Soaps. But there's something that's changed at Allen's. It's not Alan there working alone anymore. Ian works there. That's his brother. There's a young lady who works there now. She's not even a family member. See, Alan's exists to do this, to give meaningful, good, dignified work, making a great product to people who the rest of the world would rather see aborted. No, the doctors said, hey, we can see Alan's going to have a lot of problems. Let us kill him for you. Well, Alan was in the womb. John and his wife said, not a chance. After all, he's made in God's image. Go to alansoaps.com/Todd. Get 10% off your first product there. That's alansoaps.com/Todd. There's subscriptions available, so you never run out of soap. Or just keep buying them from big soap companies that don't really particularly care about your values. Media reporters finally talking about Bill Gates and his plans for the human body. Of course, they're not American. Why would they be American media reporters?
Now, it even gets worse. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is continuing its global push to support its so-called government-backed digital ID programs, and this time setting its sight on Kenya, where it will advise the government on that country's Maisha Namba digital ID initiative that is currently under development. So, according to a Kenyan news agency, Gates' role is assisting the Kenyan government in its development, and the rollout of Maisha Namba was announced after a recent series of closed-door meetings with Kenyan President William Ruto. According to Biometric Update, Maisha Namba is supposedly expected to address different challenges, such as identifying and authenticating citizens, safeguarding primary registration documents such as birth certificates and national identity cards, and improving the management of the social programs and government operations. The project has been met with skepticism in some parts of the country. Rights groups have also been expressing concern over the possibility of discrimination and the erosion of privacy. But listen, I just told you in a very nice way. Now let me just put it blatantly to you. The program targets the birth of new babies. So once you have your baby, before your baby leaves the hospital, you no longer get a paper birth certificate, but then you get a digital one that is somehow implanted somewhere on somebody's body. Think about that, but have a listen to this.
The digital ID, which has been a big problem to us for a very long time, is now on a testing mode for the next 2 months. I have been assured by all the stakeholders, led by the ministries concerned, that by December, we will be able to launch digital ID, where every Kenyan don't have to carry any paper, plastic or otherwise, as an ID, that they should be able to be identified digitally using their iris or their fingerprints, and we can transact without the necessity of people struggling to identify who they are.
I shouldn't have to say it, but I will. It's not necessarily the mark of the beast, but it's coming. Satan is a planner. He runs this organization like a military concern, and he's going to prep environments. He's going to normalize things. I don't think Bill Gates has any idea who he's actually serving. He's talking about inserting these things into babies. Bill Gates looks at the world, and he sees a bunch of people who have bodies that are codable. Our DNA is code. It's the most elegant code ever written. It's readable, it's writable, it's repeatable, it's understandable, and it is beautiful. Bill Gates can't help but think, with all of these little creatures running about, how can I be the provider of the operating system? And if not the operating system, the apps. How can I have that control? Yeah, it's prepping the environment for the mark of the beast. Neither buy nor sell without it. It's important to understand something. As we head into this time about which God warned us, very, very clear that it would be a time where people's hearts would grow cold. They'd not have the capacity for love or the capacity to hear his word in any material sense, to hear it but maybe not understand it, rather. When there are people like Bill Gates given these positions of power, it's up to us to let them show us who they are. I can't mention the way he took a run at this before because I'm hoping that we can put this video up on YouTube. But you know what I mean. And I don't want a second strike, so I'll stop there. I don't want a digital ID put in the kids' bodies, do you? Who does? Well, people who believe it would never be used for ill. If you can point to me one technology, one, that ultimately governments didn't begin to use against the people, I'll give you a prize. I mean, social media, it's being used against us, right? When it's not being silenced.